Welcome to VLGA Connect. My name is Catherine Arndt and I'm the Chief of the VLGA Connect studio. I hope you enjoy today's Connect episode brought to you by the VLGA, the national broadcaster on all things local government.
Well, hi everyone and welcome to another VLGA Connect and a special edition today. I'm very pleased to have joining me on the program the Mayor of Hume City Council, Councillor Joseph Haweil. Joseph, great to see you.
Good to be with you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Wanted to catch up and talk to you a bit more about an editorial that from you that was published in the Herald Sun last week, responding to that poll that's got quite a lot of attention, suggesting that, well, frankly, it suggested that most people don't see value in their local councils and they'd be quite happy to see them done away with. You're one of the voices that have come out very strongly, arguing sort of careful what you wish for. What prompted you to take the step of publishing that editorial?
Well, of course, it was in response to exactly that poll that came out that caused so much concern in the local government sector. Of course, we have to preface anything I say by saying that it was a small sample done at a certain period of time, and I don't think it's reflective of the entirety of community views. But my view was that we needed to go out there as a sector and say, look, there are a suite of incredible services that make a meaningful impact on people's lives that we provide every single day. And it's worth telling the story of those services. I think, Chris, one of the problems we have in the local government sector is not that our services are not well received, not that they're not useful to the community or desired, but in fact that it's a PR problem. We're not able to tell in the hustle and bustle of a media cycle the story of local government and the meaningful impact it has at the grassroots level every day. So very much that editorial was an attempt to say, no, there are services that we do provide that the community wants, and that by and large, this sector is a high-performing level of government.
What sort of a reaction or response have you received from what you said last week?
You'd expect that from across my colleagues in the local government sector, they're always happy to hear a defence of the sector, and so that has been a positive response. One element of the editorial also reflected on some of the challenges we've had in and around Broadmeadows for very many years. It comes as no surprise to anyone in the sector that there have been some challenges, particularly resulting from the socioeconomic circumstances that exist in the region, and calling out really some of the underinvestment from successive state governments in the area. And I think the use of a term that was used, and I'm happy to share it, it was Broady Bronx in reference to one of our housing estates existing in the area, did cause some concern, but by and large, the bigger issue has been, well, how do we secure investment in the area? And where it comes to local investment, councils are going above and beyond every single day. It's really the state that very often has let us down. That's not to say that state governments don't provide a very important function in our community, in our system of government. Of course they do, but it's saying that there's more work to be done to work together and to better target investments in key areas. So by and large, I'm very pleased to say that there's been a very positive reaction from both the community, but also from our sector itself and other levels of government as well.
You say the sector has a PR problem, and I think that's the crux of why we keep having this conversation, isn't it? Is that of the sector's doing, or is that because we just can't get the media to look at local government in the light that perhaps it should?
I think it's a combination of factors. In very simple terms, it's always easy to beat up on one level of government and to share negative news stories. So that feeds a news cycle. That's just sort of media 101. I think if you looked at the local government attention where it comes to media, it's probably 3 or 4 councils. 90% of the stories over the last few years, probably in the state media, I'm talking about the main newspapers, even television news media, has focused on 3 or 4 councils in Victoria and some of the issues that they face. And I think that, as I wrote in the editorial, that those issues have sort of cast a pall over the rest of the sector. And so it's important that we do go out there and share in a strategic way exactly what we do to provide services to the community. Look at the flip side, Chris. Where it comes to aged care, it's communities up in arms about local governments getting out of aged care. they're crying out for
Yeah.
investment and services from councils as opposed to privatisation of those services or state or other levels of government providing those services. That's a very interesting paradox where it comes to issues like this. And those are the stories that I think we should be sharing.
What do you think the sector could be doing more of to address that PR problem, as you call it?
It is working strategically. I think that we have 79 different councils. Each of them is running its own strategy. Each of them has its own communications departments. Each of those councils has its own priorities at a high level in terms of sector-wide representative organisations. We, of course, have the Municipal Association of Victoria, the VLGA, and a whole range of other bodies, and each pursues its own priorities within the sector, but from a different angle. I think bringing those groups together, as some other councillors and council representatives have suggested to me in recent times, is very important, that we do things in a collective and cohesive way. When you look at, for example, as a comparison, the meat industry, the lamb sector, the banana sector, etc., etc. But they come together as a collective lobby group to say, eat lamb. They don't say, eat my type of lamb, or eat my brand of banana, or eat my brand of avocado. They come together as a sector to say, this is the product we're offering, and these are the benefits of that product. I don't know that we do that cohesively, collectively, or strategically at a local government level. And there's a case to be made, I think, across the sector for us to do that and just tell the good news stories of what we do. I can tell you, and this would be no surprise to your viewers, that if in my part of the world, Hume City Council got out of a whole range of important services, people's lives would have a net detriment, no doubt about that, every single day. And so it's important to share those stories across the state and indeed across Australia.
Yes, you make the point about that oversimplification, that use of the trope roads, rates and rubbish, which keeps coming back up.
Look, it's very simple to boil things down into those 3 R's. I mean, when I was speaking to some of our council officers about what my response would be to that poll, for example, some of the officers said you should talk about roads, rates and rubbish. So it happens within our sector itself. It's just something that has stuck in very many ways. We all know that most councils are providing around 100 different services, give or take, depending on where they are. In our part of the world and those in the outer metropolitan areas, the growth corridors of this state and indeed across Australia know that local governments are not just delivering services, they're actually building this nation in terms of its infrastructure. Those are stories that we have to tell. If you come to the outer growth areas in the Northern Growth Corridor, you simply have houses. Were it not for council and its strategic investments and planning, some associated with things like, as you know, growth strategies or planning schemes. But in other cases, it's discretionary. We're making conscious decisions every single day about what areas we're going to invest in and what we're going to put there, from sporting fields to maternal child health, a world-class infrastructure that's getting put in the suburbs every single day and across the state as well. That's a good story. You can't get a better story than that. Where there was nothing, now there is, right at people's doorstep. And I think that's what we should be sharing with the community. And if we need to do a better job of sharing it with our colleagues at the state and federal government level, maybe we need to do that as well.
So you've stepped up and are taking a stand. I noticed Jim McGee at Glen Ira has been very vocal recently about the need for some change in thinking and reform across the sector. Would you like to see more mayors showing this type of leadership? Is that what it's going to take?
For many mayors, it's a balancing act. On the one hand, you don't want to be too critical of other levels of government as a natural approach. I think most mayors, indeed most councils, want to work cooperatively with other levels of government. But where it comes to higher level strategic and structural reforms that are very much needed in this sector, we do need people to speak up and speak out more actively and openly. Can we do that as a sector more cohesively and strategically? I think we can, but we do need to speak up because in many cases, as Councillor McGee has said, for example, it's almost do or die right now in terms of the circumstances that we face. So I would like to see that, but I would like to see it in a more coordinated way.
Joseph, congratulations on stepping up on this particular topic. Thank you very much for your time to talk to us about it today on VLGA Connect.
It's a pleasure, Chris. Thanks very much for the work you're doing.
Thank you.